Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And one of my subscribers has awared me of an Instagram fitness model named Jailyne, I believe that's how it's pronounced, and her fake glutes. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And the reason I want to talk about this is that people like this do an extreme disservice to other women. Now, a lot of you guys are like, well, I don't care. She's doing a great service for me because I like that waist to hip to butt ratio. And you know what? If that's your thing, that's okay. I think it's a bit extreme personally. I think it's a bit on the extreme side, but I get that. A lot of dudes dig that. And so I'm not knocking you for that if you like that. But the fact of the matter is that you have someone who's very obviously has no clue how to train their glutes, has no clue how to train their legs, has no clue at all how to train, who has a completely fake body that is entirely a result of surgery. I doubt she's actually ever gained any significant muscle or anything else in her butt from her training, because we've seen her training. And this becomes a problem because it gives women this idea that this is some sort of attainable standard, kind of like when we talk about all the fake muscle and all the stuff in bodybuilding and all of that. It not only creates a false standard, but I think most of them realize that, though, that yeah, they know that's not normal. And they know that's not going to be just from training, but by that same token, a lot of people will still listen to her, and women might look at what she does and actually think that what she does might help them a little bit. And the reality is it won't. It's all a complete waste of time. And the worst part is that she's in complete denial that it's fake. She's calling people who say that it's all from surgery and implants and liposuction and all that. She's saying that they're haters. When the reality is it's not haters. That's just being honest. I mean, when someone is doing something shady, very clearly and obviously to anyone with even a remotely trained eye, can tell that it's shady, and then you call them on it, that's not being a hater. That's not being a hater, that's trying to help people, particularly when they see how this could hurt others. Now, as far as I know, she's not selling workout routines, so that's a good thing. If she was selling workout routines, she should probably be sued for fraud. That would be a little bit different. But she's not. It looks like she sells phone apps and stuff. That's what I can tell, just having looked over her website real quick. That appears to be the case. But the worst problem is that I went and looked at what she's doing for training. It's all this silly fluff stuff that women are being convinced will actually build their glutes. Stuff like getting on a machine and doing like leg press things, one leg behind you or something, like on top of other machines. You guys already know how I feel about machines for building muscle. I don't think they're particularly good, even when used correctly. And she's using them incorrectly. It's like women get in and they think every piece of equipment in the gym is a glute exercise, and they completely avoid the stuff that actually does build glutes. Things like the barbell squat. That should be your number one go-to. Heavy ass barbell squats to build a big round ass. Not that complicated. But that, and then her doing like the things where she's got the bands around her knees and walking around and doing some quarter squats or whatever and sidestepping with them. And I saw someone, my bro Nico, who you guys know, I saw him posting some stuff about that. He hates at it. He can't stand people using these bands around their knees all the time and thinking that it contributes to anything for helping build your butt. That device, other than maybe for certain physical therapy components, is completely useless, and it's actually potentially counterproductive, because if it reduces the load with which you can lift, because you're playing with silly bands around your legs, wrapping it around and stuff, and it reduces your actual training stimulus, it will actually reduce the amount of muscle that you're putting in your butt. Right? It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward there. It's actually counterproductive. Those things are complete garbage for 99% of women who are using them. And all these attempts to isolate your glute muscles that they think they're doing with getting on machines and doing weird one-legged stuff. The reality, and as I've said before, I recall Mark Ripito in an interview discussing that a very good friend of his who is a leading plastic surgeon has actually said that he recommends his book to women before he works on them, who's going to do stuff on their lower body and lipo and everything else, that he recommends the book to him, but tells them only do the squats. That's all they need to do if they want the sort of physique that is currently popular in mainstream, meaning not much extra muscle on the upper body, but well-developed legs, big round butt. Now you take someone like Jailyne here, and you can tell that she doesn't actually really train her legs, and she doesn't even train her butt. I mean, that's not only is the fact that it's enormous and obviously implants, the fact that she doesn't have hamstring development to go with it. Like, she doesn't have developed hamstrings to go with that butt. It is very, very difficult to add an inch of muscle to your glutes without getting developed hamstrings, let alone 5 or 6 inches like what she's got going on there. That's implant. That's a Brazilian booty. And then she looks like she's probably lipoed her waist and stuff a little bit just so that she has a little less fat around her waistline to get the waist smaller, combined with butt implants. All right, that's what you're looking at. And the problem with that is, again, you go back and say, well, what's she doing with her training? You look at what's happening with the training, and it's all nonsense. Now, you go back to what even Rippetoe noticed, and I would agree with that. That is what's going to be the premier exercise. That is your go-to, the primary exercise, women who are looking to build a butt and more solid legs and a solid core, who are trying to get the really popular bikini type physique that is popular in the mainstream. We're not talking about in the physique world. We're not talking about in the fitness world. We're talking about what is mainstream appealing, to where you're adding muscle to your legs, but particularly your butt, your hips, and you're able to still reduce your body fat while doing so that you can get a more favorable waist to hip ratio, right? Because that's what we know based upon research is considered to be more attractive. Women who have a significant hip versus waist size, we just view them as more fertile, right? That's what the psychology is looked at, and so that's why they're more attractive. That's why it's considered to be sexy. So squats are really your key, and outside of that, if you can't get everything you need from squats, that's where any sort of pulling from the floor becomes really, really beneficial. Becomes really beneficial when we're talking about deadlifts. You know, we could argue about conventional versus sumo versus deadlift or whatever, but deadlifts, power cleans, any exercise where you pull the weight from the floor on a dead stop actually has tremendous posterior chain activation, and that's what you really need. If you really want to develop your glutes, you do need total posterior chain activation, because the whole thoracico-lumbar sling does tend to work as one unit. So if you can get hamstrings, glute, spinal erectors, all of that involved, that is the best way to stimulate growth of the glutes. But squats, deep squats, and when I say squats, I'm not talking about these half curtsy squats you see these women doing. I'm talking about squatting below parallel. Parallel meaning where your hip drops below your knee. And you see a lot of women who do even these air squats and stuff, and you look and they're not even reaching that depth. Well, we know that the deeper you go on a squat, the more activation you get in your glutes. And the more activation you get in your glutes with progressive overload, the more muscle you're going to gain there. Because the only way a butt is going to get bigger or rounder is to either add muscle or fat. And the more muscle you add, the more it tends to lift it anyways. And that's what women are wanting. So deep squats and getting really strong on squats. And I don't mean strong, I don't mean getting up to 50 pounds. We're talking about being able to do 180, 200 pounds for reps deep. That is what will build that lower body development and glutes and everything else, and even help with core. You know, it'll help build your core better. All of those things, that's how you get it. That's the best way to do it. And if you need more than that, there are more glute specialized exercises, but I would say pulling from the floor is what they need to add next. Some sort of deadlift. And if all else fails, then things like glute bridges and other stuff come in. But here's what it comes down to. We know based upon all the research that size and strength are directly correlated when anabolics aren't in the mix. It is. I've discussed this data ad nauseum as to what's going on there once things like height are factored in. Outside of that, muscle mass tends to be most correlated with strength. There's a direct correlation between size and strength. And if someone is really jacked and weak, you know they built their physique purely off of drugs. That's usually the dead giveaway. But someone can also be really strong who use a lot of drugs too. But it has to do with training style. But outside of that, size equals strength. And so if you want your glutes, and again, your whole posterior chain, your glutes, your hips, everything to grow, to get it larger, you have to add muscle. And the only way to add muscle is by gaining strength and workload. And you don't get that with this little silly fluffy stuff. You get that by putting in time under a heavy barbell. That's where the real payoff is. And when you see women like this promoting that you can develop an enormous round butt on little silly fluff exercises, fluff and pump, or what I oftentimes call leapfrog and grab ass in the gym, it's a complete disservice to women who are actually really do want the results and say, hey, I do want to train, I want to put in the work to get those sort of gains and those results. It's a disservice to them because it's leading them in the wrong direction. It's leading them towards stuff that actually can't work. This is a woman who built what she has completely with surgery. Her training probably hasn't even mattered 5% or 10% of what she has. It's at least 90% a result of surgery. It's artificial. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.